Welcome to episode 35 of Rebels Without a Pod, the show that dares ask the question, will the Dutch woke mob finally cancel Black Pete?
What? What does that even mean?
The Dutch woke mob cancel Black Pete.
Right.
Isn't Black Pete the goat, the satanic goat?
No, that wasn't that. So remember the sorbet from last week?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where the Santa would come in the
Santa
boat.
Claus were arriving in the Netherlands on a steamboat with
Yes.
with his Moorish companion that with the very unfortunate sort of makeup job who would sort of lob ginger snaps into the crowd.
Yes. Now I do
All right.
remember. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're coming for him. They're coming for us all.
and rightly so. Let's be honest.
All right, you
Sure.
make sure when this goes, record it, whatever the audio.
Mhm.
Charlie makes the short out of that question.
Oh, okay. So just addendum to
5
what
seconds
Naveen
short.
just said. Make sure Charlie learns nothing about Black Pete whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to veto that idea straight off the bat, Naveen. I'm not introducing my 15-year-old to some random Danish guy in blackface.
hmm
Nope, not doing it.
Our names would be on it. He just created it.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, no. Nope.
So, what an amazing start this is to 2025.
Yeah.
Should we just can the
Happy New
entire
Year,
intro
Charlie.
and kind of start fresh?
Yeah.
We could do that.
No. Leave it in. Leave all this in.
I think warts and all, Johnny.
All right, cool. So my name is John, and joining me tonight, Andy, who does our artwork and graphic design.
Happy New Year.
Naveen on music and audio production.
Yeah. Happy New Year as well.
Pod Daddy Eric will again not be joining this evening. I just received a text that due to an altercation with an Alaskan airline employee, he'll instead be returning to Katmai National Park to continue living with the bears. We, of course, wish him all the luck.
I can't
Yeah,
see how that
glad-
bad.
I'm glad he got out of that predicament with the ice cream bunny and stuff.
He's just out there in a tent again.
Yeah.
Him and Black Pete.
Shit.
Yeah,
Being
that's all you
stalked
could
by the
do.
woke bear mob. I don't know.
Oh,
2025, the year we finally get canceled. There.
yeah.
And
Only
it's
on the
about
second
time.
day.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's about time.
So I apologize for my voice. I'm knocking out, still in Tokyo, knocking out like a bit of a nasty head cold. I'm going to try to power through. Gentlemen, how's it going? How's your first couple days of the new year been?
Good. It's been actually kind of busy. I was in the store all day today trying to figure out which brands that I would like to carry and how I'm going to be able to afford all those things, which is a very fun exercise.
Sure.
Until you get to
Well,
the point where
in terms of brands, are you talking kind of specifically like the just instruments, equipment, sort of what actually constitutes that?
Yeah, so it's definitely. I mean, I'd be lying if I said that the reason I bought this store was so I could buy guitars. That's really the beginning and the end of it. I don't really care about any of the other instruments. I understand that we need to have them, but I don't really care about them. So really, it's just coming down to which guitar brands do I want to rep at my store, and also, frankly, which ones they will like the manufacturers will allow me to rep at my stores, because that's a whole thing too. Like they have to approve you, and I've gotten a number of rejection letters thus far. But I'll show them. I'll show them. Yeah, Sir Guitars can suck a dick. I'm just gonna say that right now. But anyway,
Andy,
Definitely not a sponsor.
definitely not a sponsor.
not anymore.
Nope, not
But that
anymore.
is quite ingenious of you, because all you hear about, or at least from my friends, is like, wife's not gonna let me buy another guitar. Wife's not gonna. It's like, yeah, I bought another guitar, wife, but I'm selling it though. You know, it's for the store. It's
I'll tell you what it was. So the rule in my house, I may have said this on the pod before, but the rule in my house is that if I'm going to bring a new guitar into the house, I have to sell one in order. So it's got to be a 1-for-1 exchange. So my loophole was I'm not buying any more guitars to bring into the house. I'm buying a whole goddamn guitar store, and I'm going to order as many guitars as I want. And it's for the business. It's a write-off.
Right.
I still don't actually know what it means to be a write-off. I have to learn that. But I will at some point.
So not knowing what a write-off is, and also ... I'll show them all. Amazing way to kind of start your tenure as like a new business owner.
I think so.
Just sterling work so far.
I think so. Yes, I think so. I'm gonna crush it. That's the way I'm looking at it. So yeah, so that was my fun day today, but I need to spend some more time worrying about the solar side of my life as well. My other job is going by the wayside at the moment, and that's not ideal. So anyway, that's that. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a new year. Just feels like another day. Like, you know, nothing new. It's like the holidays passed, now we're back at it. You know, so all is good. Back to teaching as well. We went back today, and that is just getting back into the routine for the kids to, you know, have them start remembering to bring instruments and things and get back to practicing and stuff. But yeah, I mean, nothing different really. It's just another year, another day.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't forget to lather.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, out here, like I said, still in Japan, sort of kind of fighting off like a nasty head cold. Did not really kind of do too much over like the last few days. You know, there's an interesting inversion of how they celebrate the holidays out in Japan, where Christmas is actually the day that you go on a date with your partner, or you hang out and kind of get drunk with your friends, or you go to like a show, or you kind of just do some sort of big sort of social whatever. And New Year's is actually the day that you kind of spend sort of quietly with your family. You know, it's very kind of standard to, particularly if your family sort of practices kind of, you know, just any kind of degree of sort of the, you know, kind of traditional kind of Japanese kind of Shinto or Buddhism. You know, there's usually a temple visit. There are usually kind of customary sort of kind of meals or collections of small dishes that you eat with your family, like on New Year's proper. You know, there are kind of ceremonial sort of decorations you kind of put up, all the rest of it. But what's interesting about kind of spend the holidays out here is things will be kind of very active and kind of lively. And then between New Year's Day proper and January 6th, basically the entire country sort of more or less like shuts down, like up to and including major kind of government services and hospitals. So you can kind of still, you can still take a train, you can kind of still go to like a convenience store or McDonald's or kind of whatever else. But basically, nothing is going to be happening in Tokyo for like the next 3 or 4 days. So I was actually sort of grateful to have the chance to kind of pod instead, because it can be like a little bit like a kind of the New Year in Japan, as much fun as you can have like leading up to it, can be like a little bit of a dull period.
Is January 6th is it an arbitrary date, or is it always January 6th, or is it just
it's a sort of a ballpark kind of plus or minus, like, you know, there's I think the run of things kind of being closed goes from basically kind of Christmas to just after Christmas to a few days after the New Year. Like January 5th or 6th is usually when things kind of stay closed until, and then everything will sort of kind of wake back up and kind of come online again.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So there was that. I mean, just having the head cold took like a little bit like the sting out of that. New Year's Eve, my girlfriend and I kind of sort of fell asleep at like sort of 9 o'clock, and then we kind of just sort of hung out and did stuff with her family on New Year's, which was also my birthday, and turned 45. Again, to Naveen's point, doesn't feel any kind of different to anything kind of whatsoever. Like, you know, just 45 is not a complete bullshit birthday like the way that 43 or 44 actually is, but it still doesn't feel like too much of like a milestone at the same time.
Yeah. Do they celebrate New Year's in a similar way in Japan as they do here in the States with like a ball drop or fireworks or some kind of grand?
There are usually kind of long form television specials that air right up until midnight. And then and they'll be sort of very kind of like just hyper energetic, sort of just picture like the worst kind of Mr. Sparkle sort of stereotypes, of kind of Japanese like TV, kind of like imagine in your head, them electrocuting Chris Farley, like all the rest of that. And then it's interesting when midnight hits proper, it immediately pivots from this kind of just coked up kaleidoscopic sort of you sort of look at that, Pikachu is base jumping, like whatever, to like midnight hits and immediately it gets very quiet and very somber and cuts right to different temples around the country, kind of ranging all the way from like Okinawa, like in the south, all the way up to Hokkaido in the north, and it'll be sort of just footage of just kind of pilgrims at like the temples and like in sort of the ceremonies they're performing. They perform like it's sort of like kind of like the chimes or bells they kind of ring to kind of herald in like the new year. So it's the TV stuff gets like a little bit raucous, and then midnight hits proper, and then everything in the country just goes like really, really quiet from then to like about like a few days out.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Experience. Anyway, so no movie on like this particular episode. We decided instead that we're going to be pivoting a little bit from our kind of standard through line of conversations, and we thought we would turn our attention to some of the best and worst non-podcast movies that we saw in 2024 that we did not necessarily have kind of time to discuss on the show. So I thought we'd spend a little time kind of talking movies, and also kind of open, just open the forum for any other kind of random sort of just culture, TV, books, music, whatever we kind of wanted to shout out for like the new year. But just kind of chat for like a little bit, kind of recap some of the things that we enjoyed, and sort of give sort of any give some like attention to some kind of a just random shout outs that we weren't able to cover otherwise.
Yep. Yeah, I think that'll be fun to look back. I will say I did spend a little bit of time also writing down my answers for each of the kind of categories that we've laid out for things that we did watch on the pod. As sort of like a year in review. These were the ones that I think were the best. These were the ones that I think were the worst. These were this was my biggest surprise. So I have those for stuff we've also that we watched on the pod as well. We don't have to go into that, but I think it might be interesting to hear.
Andy, let's save that for when we finally when we have Eric back on the show and we're doing like our sort of like pod kind of proper recap. I think that that's exactly what we're looking for there.
That's a good call. You're right.
All right. So I had in the show notes here, we'd be starting a worst new film of 2024, or we can kind of talk sort of specifically about like a kind of just particular movies or kind of sets of movies that you didn't like particularly enjoy, or just kind of like if there was any sort of particular kind of genre stuff that you generally like that just kind of didn't like kind of hit for you guys this year. But who would like to go first? Worst new film 2024.
Go ahead, Naveen.
Yeah, sure. I will. Well, honestly, a lot of it was not that great because I can't really remember throughout the year what movies and things I've seen. It's just nothing that really just wowed me or even was like, that's really crappy. Obviously, the movies I mostly remember are from what we did in this pod, and I don't want to give that away because I know we want to do that for our Burnt Ends episode. Obviously, those ones stick out more because we had a little kind of like research and homework to do with it as well.
Sure.
To watch it.
Yeah, there's more focus on the movies, and then there's actually like the show, the communal element of just kind of talking about your friends after.
Yeah. So yeah, there was nothing that really wowed me. I watched Wonka, and I thought it was okay. It was kind of neat the way it was, this little prequel with it, but again, nothing that was like, ooh, that brought me in. One movie that was really bad, but so good because it was bad, was the Godzilla vs. Kong: The New Empire. Like, it was such a terrible movie, but it was so hilarious, and I don't think it was meant to
Andy,
be a
I remember
comedy.
you speaking very warmly about that movie as well when you first saw it.
Were you talking to me or just say Andy?
No, not me. I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
I thought you said
Charlie.
Andy.
Charlie
Charlie
hated
saw
it.
Charlie, okay.
Charlie hated that movie.
And I can see why, but I
Hmm.
couldn't help but laugh at it. Like, it was the best comedy ever, and I don't think it's meant to be a comedy because it was just like so far fetched with some of the things. And I'm sure Charlie being a kid, and I'm sure if I was a teenager, I'd be like, "That's not the fighting and the cool things I want to be seeing." You know, it's
Right,
like
right.
the action scenes.
He went and saw it in the theater too. So like he went with his buddies. It was like an event for him, and he came back and he was like, "That was just brain rot the entire time."
Oh,
right. And do you remember the kind of movies that you enjoyed when you were 14? That is a low bar to clear. That is a
super low bar. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
super low bar, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
Naveen, the thing I keep hearing about kind of Godzilla v Kong is that there's one scene in it where there's like a kind of Kong Jr. Diddy Kong sort of character, like a little monkey is introduced, and I this is the only thing I keep hearing about. At one point, King Kong is having a fight, and he picks up Diddy Kong and uses him as a club. He starts kind of whipping him around like as a nunchuck at one point.
It happens. It's true. That's why it was just funny. There's that part.
That
It's
actually
like,
sounds
what?
amazing.
It was great. It was just hilarious. And then they give Kong a power glove. You're just like, yeah.
Like a Nintendo Power Glove?
Not literally a power glove, but it's basically a power glove, you know.
Right.
Huh.
He doesn't,
And right after that,
it
Fred
makes no
Savage
stronger.
comes on, and they have a competition of Super Mario 3.
California.
I could see that happening.
I had the poster for that fucking film up in my
I
room.
gotta watch
for
that
years.
movie again.
No,
I
you
haven't
do
seen
not.
that in years.
Oh yeah, I do.
Right.
It's like one of those movies you gotta watch again just to see if it holds up. And
Just re-listen to a couple good like kind of Jenny Lewis albums like that you know that
Yeah.
that box does not need to be reopened.
There's no way to
VHS.
look it up.
Yeah. Andy, how about yourself? Worst new film of 2024.
You know, I'm gonna agree in a lot of ways with Naveen. I spent some time going back. I actually Googled, you know, movies released in 2024, and I found the full list of every major movie or whatever that came out this year.
Right.
And like, there weren't a lot of movies that I would consider memorable. There are some, and
Memorable in terms of either being great or terrible.
Yeah, they were just kind of like, they were movies that I watched that were probably entertaining in the moment, but not anything that I would call out as being like, oh, I have to revisit that one. There's a couple that I will mention later, but not too many of them. But so I guess for me, the two movies that really stood out to me as just being bad, in my opinion, Inside Out 2 was a huge letdown, because I still love Inside Out 1. I think it was such a smart, interesting, tug on the heartstrings, like just a great movie. And 2
perfectly
was
made film. It just
Yes.
encapsulates sort of real emotional truth. For me personally, maybe like the last great Pixar film. Like I want to say, people have made arguments since then for Coco, but I just that one I didn't manage to get all the way through.
Coco was good. Inside Out 1 definitely better than Coco. Encanto I thought was very good. But yeah, anyway, so Inside Out 2 was just a real big letdown. And then the other one, which, I will admit, I didn't go into it with high hopes. I had already heard bad reviews about it, but it was Christmas season. We were watching Christmas movies. We put on Red 1, which is
sure.
Yeah, with The Rock and Chris Evans and I don't know who the hell else was in that.
J.K. Simmons as like a really buff Santa Claus.
Yes. and that movie was was so bad. We watched the
Mhm.
whole thing. We made it through, and I actually didn't even fall asleep while watching it, which I will often do if I don't enjoy a movie. I watched the whole thing because I was just waiting for something cool to happen the whole time, and
Right.
it just doesn't. Like it goes nowhere. They spent whatever $150 million or whatever stupid amount of money they spent on it, and
Right.
like I said, it just goes. The movie goes nowhere. Rock,
Mhm.
The Rock is completely unlikable. Chris Evans is kind of a douche in it.
Mm.
J.K. Simmons is fine as Santa
Mhm.
Claus, but like he doesn't have any of the real
I mean, for J.K. Simmons, fine is his absolute rock bottom, though, because he's
Yes.
usually the best thing in whatever he's in.
And he was the best thing in this movie, like bar none, in my opinion, without question. But like, it just, I don't know, like the stuff that you want to see out of a Santa Claus figure, he just doesn't have any of that stuff. He's just sort of like a
Right.
serious kind of buff dude that goes around once a year. And anyway, it's just a super letdown. So yeah, that Red One was probably like one of the worst movies I watched the whole year. And that's inclusive of some of the stuff that we watched on this pod. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll just I'll give like the credit to it. So one of my favorite video game podcasts, Get Played, had this amazing joke about about kind of J.K. Simmons and Red One, but they were talking about how just exactly what you're saying, how generally kind of like just a like a dull and upsetting and kind of miserable movie that was, but the host really liked the J.K. Simmons performance, and they're also just kind of remarking on how kind of post Commissioner Gordon, he's J.K. Simmons is in the space of just being really crazy, super buff for like whatever reason, for like all like the different roles that he's in.
Yep.
And somebody maybe I will kind of find this entertaining, but someone on the pod described J.K. Simmons as looking like a really muscular pencil. And then when the other host immediately went, yeah, he's like a number 3. That made me smile. I don't know.
I have no idea what that means, but I like it.
Yeah.
What about you?
For The Rock, though, I mean, has he really changed his acting style from movie to movie? To me, he seems like he plays the same guy every single time.
Yes, but wait. Here's my only, I don't know, contrary bit to. So, yes, he plays The Rock in every movie that he's in. However, in a lot of movies that I've seen him in, and I've actually seen an embarrassing number of his movies, he's got charm. There's a charm to him that like even if you don't like him, you can understand why he's as successful, as massive as he is. Not, well, I guess figuratively and literally. You get it. Like there's something, he's got that star something that at all in this movie. Like any bit of rock charm that you expect out of him, gone.
Right.
Just gone. And actually kind of the same with Chris Evans.
Sure. This is a disappointing thing with Chris Evans because he's basically had no good movies since Endgame, pretty much. But you look at even like the non-MCU career that he's had. He was amazing in Danny Boyle's Sunshine. He was really great as like the lead in Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
I finally, in Japan, it's like a different set of movies they make available on Netflix. I finally got the chance to watch Knives Out for the first time. He's completely fantastic, kind of front to back in that.
Yep.
But it's just like this weird sort of post MCU, post Endgame career that he's had, where it's just every project that he's been in is just like kind of grade Z kind of streaming, or seems like it's headed straight to streaming direct, where it feels like he's it's almost like he's exclusively in movies that more seem kind of purpose towards Russian money laundering than kind of creating any kind of like actual piece of art.
I would generally agree with that. I thought he was good in Deadpool and Wolverine.
No, sure.
I thought he was pretty decent in that, but I think part of what made it decent was the fact that he was calling back to a previous character and he was playing it up a little bit. And, you know, they made him
Right.
kind of an a-hole. That was kind
And
of
it's also about it's one really really good joke and about 5 minutes like a screen time.
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a cameo. A
Right.
cameo.
Yeah, it's got to be
So
hard.
think
To,
of like
What's that?
say again,
Naveed?
Naveen?
I was going to say it's got to be hard to play a role for so long, and then to try to get out of that and be seen as versatile and
Yeah.
other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
What about
for
you,
my
Johnny?
worst for my worst of the year, so I kind of you know, I've mentioned this kind of once or twice on the pod before, but I've actually for 2 years running now, I've been kind of tracking every kind of new movie that I've seen over the course of the year, and I've been keeping kind of like this is just a I've been making an effort at least to kind of keeping like a ranking, kind of more or less, a kind of best to worst, and also like a separate distinction of like, here's the stuff that I liked, here's the stuff that I really really loved, and here's like the things that I kind of really disliked. So I'm going to be kind of referring back to like that list for 2024 for like a bunch of like these questions coming up. Looking at my kind of bottom 6 for the year, I saw over 2024 66 films I had not actually seen before. About 25 of those were just kind of completely new for this year. But looking at like sort of like the stuff at the bottom, it's the one that I have at the absolute bottom. I'm going to put a pin in talking about because it was actually like a podcast movie, so I'll be saving that one for the recap. Looking at like the remainder, like the bottom ranked ones, it's just like a bunch of stuff that I don't have anything to say about. Mostly just kind of films, just Maxine, Insidious, The Red Door, you know, just an old David Cronenberg film, Scanners, are just movies that just kind of left me kind of bored and disinterested, or just didn't have a lot going, or didn't kind of work all the way. The first
Scanners.
thing, yeah.
Scanners, was that the one with the little like leech alien kind of things that they get into your body?
No, Scanners has like the it's about kind of like these telepathically enhanced soldiers that they have kind of psychic fights together, and when one of them loses a fight, like their head explodes.
That's right. I remember that now. I do remember that.
Yeah. So there is one amazing scene of that happening at the beginning of the movie, another amazing scene with that happening at the end of the movie, and pretty much nothing happens like in like the intervening kind of like 90 minutes or so. It was really like pretty much a letdown. But for me, like looking at the bottom ranked stuff, this is like the thing I had ranked the lowest that people would have any kind of contention being with this actually sort of being a bad movie was like Andy said, like Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2 really fucking bugged me for like a number of reasons, and I think like so like the you know, and I'm also coming from the point similar to Andy, the you know the original one, like we said, is just a wonderful, creative, just a deeply emotionally kind of just heartfelt and honest like piece of filmmaking. Inside Out 2, the entire time I'm sitting there and I'm just like watching the movie and going like, this teenager is a real piece of garbage. this was my real core thing. Like this is not this kid is actually kind of a narcissistic psychopath, like a little bit. Like there's it's just it pivots from kind of Riley's character in the first movie being like such a convincing, such a relatable and sort of like emotionally sort of believable child, and it feels like they kind of in Inside Out 2, they had kind of this directive of kind of like, oh, we have to kind of make an iteration on the same movie, but it felt kind of at the same time they couldn't touch honestly on like maybe as honestly as they wanted to, like on a number of kind of just realistic teenager emotions, because they might not kind of translate well to kind of what the first film was, or there might be things that are like a little too uncomfortable or a little kind of non-G rated. So it just, I think they kind of got around that by making Riley kind of a psycho, and there were just like the decisions that she makes over like the course of the movie, how she treats her friends, how she kind of behaves at like this, it's the hockey camp that she's at, how she kind of actually sort of, just kind of behaves playing like the game. It's like the entire time I'm like, there is nothing I can root for like about this kid at all. This is it did not feel like the first movie was, here is a realistic, emotionally believable child that you can actually kind of relate to. The second movie, I'm watching this and like, we've all known one or two of like these kind of like the teens or these kind of people in their life, but they're psychos that you really just kind of need to kind of just keep outside like on your life and sort of social circle. Does that make any kind of sense? Maybe I just I speak to this as the only one of the three of us to not actually sort of be actively like raising a teenager right now. But what do you guys think?
I think that's accurate. I mean, I do think that some of what they showed of Riley was on brand for a generic teenager. They did ratchet it up quite a bit. And I tend to agree with you. Like I just didn't like her character. I just didn't like her throughout most of the movie. I wasn't pulling for her. I was pulling for her friends to ditch her at one point.
Right.
So yeah.
The first part that lost me was the moment of she has these two friends that that kind of accompany her to camp at the same time. And she gets to camp, she sees there's a new clique of girls who aren't even shitty, cliquish teenagers who are just kind of chill and open-minded and kind of completely accepting of everybody. And she still immediately ditches her two friends from the drop to kind of ingratiate herself like in like this new crowd. Like that was the first point where kind of her character kind of lost me, and then everything just kind of like escalated from there.
Yeah. What do you think, Naveen?
I still haven't seen any of them. The first one or the second one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But just your explanation of the second one and things, I mean, it kind of sounds familiar with things I've seen and heard with raising kids and also teaching kids of that.
Sure.
So, it actually makes me, I should probably really do watch it and just to see. I guess it would make more sense if you are kind of immersed in seeing that kind of stuff.
Sure. I'm curious to hear your take, not just as a father, but like also like as a teacher, like as well, because it's people like the way that Riley's character is depicted in like the second movie obviously certainly do exist, but they're not the topics of these kinds of movies, like generally.
Right. So it kind of, in a sense, makes me happy to hear that, just because it's pushing against the norms of just this, cookie cutter. Oh, here's, your 3-act play that you had mentioned, and there's the climax, and then everything's hunky dory and good and fixed. But so it definitely makes me more curious, hearing the description of that to actually maybe definitely check it out more, so see if they're getting away from that Disney movie.
The fact that it's a kind of in kind of like very sort of specific ways, it's a very kind of non-standard protagonist for like a children's movie like this in certain ways. Like the thing I keep coming back to with like Inside Out 2 over and over again is that there should have been a scene like 20 minutes in, like where Riley's parents and coach realizes like, oh, this kid needs medication and therapy, and then it cuts to like Joy holding like a giant Xanax pill, just beating anxiety like over the head with it. Like that was far better film.
Yeah, I would say, Naveen, like you should 100% watch Inside Out 1. It's well worth your time. Inside Out 2, proceed at your own,
whatever kind of curiosity you have about this, obviously,
right.
Just everybody's kind of free time is sort of limited, but if you ever get the chance to kind of check it out, let's circle back.
Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely.
All right. Moving on. Biggest, I had this as film, but if you want to kind of like sort of if you want to kind of like zag like a little bit here, that's also fine. But biggest film surprise of 2024.
So I have two. one is a massive film, and the other one not so much. I think I've actually talked about both of them before, so I'll keep it brief. But I was super pleasantly surprised by Wicked. I thought it was great.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I just thought it was a fun watch. It was well acted. The songs were all great. The eye candy of the movie was amazing. Jeff Goldblum is always great.
Did you have any familiarity previously with the play or the music?
Not the play. I read the book. When the book first came out, I read the book. I don't remember any of it because that was, I don't even know, maybe 20 years ago, not quite 20, but 15 anyway. I have no recollection of the book. And I actually don't remember even really liking the book all that much. I thought it was fine. But when my wife and my daughter were like,
I'm sorry, who?
I'm sorry, my wife. That's my bad.
Thank you.
When my wife and
2025,
my daughter,
gentlemen.
I know. I got to remember at some point. When they expressed an interest in going to a movie, and that was the one they were going, I will go see almost any movie in the movie theater because I just love it. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go. Whatever. And I was the whole time, all 7 hours of the movie because it was so long. I was totally enthralled the whole time. Just thought it was great. So Wicked, and then the other one is Will and Harper, the documentary that Will Ferrell did with his
with
friend.
friends. This guy who was a writer on SNL came out in trans sort of late in life, and Will was basically like, I'm really curious to hear about this. Why don't we go on a road trip and just kind of film ourselves talking about it?
I could not recommend it enough. It is
really,
it's wonderful.
Nice. I want to watch that. Yeah,
it's wonderful. I mean, it just I don't know anybody that doesn't at least like Will Ferrell. You may not love what he does, but I think everybody just thinks he seems like a cool, affable dude and wants to hang out with him. This just makes you love the dude because he is so accepting and so open, and not in a pandering kind of, just for the camera sort of way. It's just he really wants to understand what his very good friend has been going through for the past
two intelligent, sensitive, funny guys later in their life. One has a big change, and it's them just kind of talking and connecting over it, basically.
Yeah, and the way that they give Harper room, I guess, space to kind of to explain in some ways sort of what she has been going through. And I don't want to spoil it because it's one of the more poignant and kind of memorable parts of the film, but there is a portion where Harper revisits part of her past, and it's just it's crushing. You just sit there and you just watch this person reliving all of these really difficult, traumatic times that they experienced in this, in this place, I guess we'll say. I don't know. It's wonderful. It's just so good. Watch it.
Yeah, Andy, you know what we should do? We should put that movie on the plan to watch on the podcast and discuss together at some time, because I think that would be great. Just hearing your report on that, and just sort of thinking about that this is something sort of particularly in kind of context of what 2024 and 2025 has kind of been like, and just hearing that a movie like this is out there, and it sounds like such a kind of a wonderful counterpoint to all the just nastiness and just kind of evil bullshit that seems to kind of be permeating a lot of the culture at this point.
Yep.
Let's I'll make a note that we should kind of program that at some point.
I think that's I would love to have an excuse to watch it again. And the fact that you guys haven't seen it, I loved it. And I don't know about Eric, but I'm going to guess that he maybe hasn't seen it either.
100%, it's something you're interested in.
Yeah, it's great. So those are my two biggest surprises of the year, I would say.
No, nice. Oh, great shout out. Naveen, how about yourself?
Well, I would have to say surprise for me. I thought it was, I didn't read the book. Just only knew a little bit about it, but the biggest surprise was Wicked for me, but the other way, I did not like it.
Oh, bummer. Okay.
Ooh. Ooh.
Because I always heard it was like a prequel to the whole Wizard of Oz thing, but it's not really a prequel. Like they kind of started that way, but the way it turns and swerves.
To my understanding, like the back half of the musical and what Wicked Part 2 is going to be has way more connective tissue to like the actual Wizard of Oz story.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah, so yeah, it was a surprise because I thought I was interested in watching it. I wanted to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I heard great things about it, at least for the not necessarily the movie itself, but the Broadway show. So, but it was kind of like, didn't like it too much. But I will definitely finish it off and see the second half there. And go ahead, Johnny. You seem like you're about to say something.
No, so I was curious. We've never really kind of talked about this though, but where are you these days with sort of just being a musician and being kind of like a music teacher? Where are you generally these days with sort of Broadway plays? Are they something you enjoy, or are there something you kind of go out of your way to kind of check out from time to time?
Yeah, I've never been a big musical fan in general. So it's okay. And so it's hit or miss. We did go see Aladdin a couple years back.
Okay.
And I thought that was great. I mean, I obviously loved the movie as well, or the cartoon there, and it was just just seeing it done on the stage like that, I thought it was awesome. Loved it, enjoyed it. I still am interested in seeing, like the Lion King, and I'll definitely go check them out. So it's kind of, but at this point, it's hit or miss for me. Cats. I still don't understand how Cats is such a long time running musical.
Yeah.
Is the most horrendous thing I've ever seen, and
are we talking like the musical or the stage play? I'm sorry, like the movie or the stage play.
I watched the stage play, so but I'd say both. I mean, I don't have to see the movie to know that it was
right.
Bad. Like I don't know how they could fix it.
The movie famously, bizarrely, insanely terrible. That's my understanding. Yeah,
I think that's one that we might want to put in on the watch list for us as well as the 29.
I've watched clips that might be like a tough hang.
Oh, it would be awful, but I think it might be a fun.
It might be. You might be right on that one.
Torturous experiment for us.
Right.
Yeah, and then the other surprise for me the other way was actually Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, the like the new Roadhouse with
the new
Jake
Roadhouse. Yeah, it was surprisingly fun and good. I enjoyed it.
Yep. I loved it too. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I thought Conor McGregor. I'm not a Conor McGregor fan. I just the bravado doesn't do much for me. I thought he was awesome in the movie. Yeah. I loved his character. I mean, he played himself, but whatever.
Yeah, it worked.
Yep.
Conor McGregor, I feel like I've heard best described as the Irish Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, but less
less fun.
Yeah. Less discreet too, I think. But yeah, I agree with that one. That one was good.
And again, it was a shock because I know there's always all these jokes as well about Jake Gyllenhaal, but there's been quite a few movies that I've enjoyed him in. I enjoyed Donnie Darko.
When he's good, he is extremely good. I mean, No Way Home was one of like the best villain performances I think there's ever been in like a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
But isn't he like the butt of a lot of jokes though, that he's not a great actor and things as well. But maybe I'm wrong. But
I think with him, like the misses are real misses, and I think that like the fact his career kind of started with Donnie Darko, which is like a movie that was hit very, very strong for like a short amount of time, but is now kind of seen as like, oh, this is this kind of embarrassing thing that I thought was deep when back in like 1997 or whatever.
Donnie Darko is one of the most boring movies I think I've ever watched in my life.
And that's exactly the issue, I think.
It's so boring.
I haven't watched it in years, but I know I enjoyed it when I watched it. But I enjoyed
Uh-huh.
Zodiac. It did that when he did that movie. I thought it was really neat.
Very good in Zodiac. Very, very good in Zodiac.
I know it's way out there, but Bubble Boy was just fun and hilarious, and he played that
Absolutely.
so well.
Yep,
Yeah.
Bubble Boy was great. Was
The
great
only
in
thing
it.
I remember about Bubble Boy was in the trailer. There's a scene of him in a bubble being chased by an ostrich, and I'm like,
Mhm.
great shot. That's the only thing I need to watch from the movie.
Yep.
No, you need to watch the rest of it too.
It's good.
It's fun.
Okay.
It's actually
It's
very
just-
fun.
It is.
Hmm.
It's stupidly fun. It's good.
Hmm.
So, but even such, I didn't know if he could pull off that Dalton persona and thing.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
Right.
And so that was
Swayze is a tough act to follow in any context. And I get
That's
that-
right.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was Swayze was strong, obviously, but he was not like this big guy. He's
Mhm.
no Lou Ferrigno or anything, but
Right.
Mm-hmm.
he's you didn't want to mess with him.
No.
No. So,
What about you, Johnny?
all right. So, biggest surprises. I'll pivot like a little bit from what you guys have been saying, but so the biggest surprises are for me were not so much kind of movies like movies themselves as experiences that had watching movies, and I'll kind of shout out two specific ones that come to mind for like last year. The first one I've told like the story like the podcast already, but like the night that I went to see an IMAX projection of the A24 horror movie Midsommar, but they ran the first 6 minutes of Inside Out 2 leading up to it, and the film cut from Inside Out 2 to Midsommar in just like the funniest way fucking possible. That still makes me smile this day, and that it was such a it was just that would have made the night for me just kind of by itself. But then Midsommar, I think, ended up kind of like my top 5 of the year. Like it's a movie that was. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. About Midsommar. So, I guess first of all, is it a horror movie?
It's boy, that's certainly a question. It really splits people. Most people don't like it, and it's one of these that I would not blame the people who didn't like it or didn't kind of like understand what like the director was actually kind of going for. It is a horror movie, but it is a horror movie in an extremely bizarre, extremely specific way. I try to see most of the new A24 stuff. A lot of it misses for me. A lot of it is just like, well, these are a lot of A24 films. I feel like are extremely creative people giving a lot of latitude to kind of make kind of whatever their vision is, and like a lot of the time it misses for me. It just doesn't work. I saw the TV Glow, the Green Knight, in A Violent Nature, just kind of just very recent A24s, where it's just like, I get and respect the creativity of this, but I can't completely wrap my head around like what they're going for. Midsommar was just for me so completely my bullshit that I was just kind of just grinning ear to ear like a maniac like the entire time. But if anybody says,
it sounds to me like it's a movie that you really liked, but that you would hesitate to recommend to somebody.
Yes, I mean, and there's a couple fundamental things that work against it. Primarily that just horror movies. This is the like a very this is as obvious as obvious a thing as you can state. Horror movies work better when they're set in the dark, when there's shadow, when there's kind of when things are hidden, when there's ambiguity about kind of what's happening, kind of what's actually going on. Midsommar is entirely set during kind of a Swedish winter solstice, where like the sun is out about like 18 hours a day, so like the vast majority of the movie is brightly lit. And that fundamentally works as a very weird contrast between as a very weird contrast with the fact it's trying to be in some ways kind of a standard horror film that sort of kind of just works up like a kind of like a sense of kind of dread over like the couple hours worth of running time. it's a movie fundamentally about how being part of a pagan rural Swedish death cult is primitive, is ignorant, is murderous, but at the same time, it's way, way, way better than being an American graduate student in your 20s. I mean, like that's the core thesis of the movie, right?
Okay.
And again, not for everybody. For me, the entire time, I am just nodding my head, just going, I understand exactly what they're talking about right now. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that Midsommar, like, kind of like the the Inside Out 2 cut over, that that was one of kind of like the biggest sort of surprise and joys. The other thing I don't think I've kind of talked about like on this podcast before, but I had a really interesting experience like over the summer. Was also kind of like in Japan for like a few weeks at the time. My girlfriend and I were watching a Japanese film together, and I had a reaction to this movie that I almost never have the films at all. And I'll brief kind of bit of context for this. We were watching like this anime film by this Japanese director named Satoshi Kon. Extremely talented director, died really, really young, only had the chance to make kind of 4 feature films in his life. I believe the movies were Perfect Blue, Tokyo Godfathers, Paprika, and this movie that Naoko and I were watching together called Millennium Actress. Okay. I'm sorry. Like the first one, Perfect Blue, Tokyo Godfathers, Paprika, Millennium Actress. Guy made basically 4 perfect anime films, and then died almost exactly our age, kind of very randomly from pancreatic cancer. Millennium Actress is about this this documentary crew that kind of goes up into like goes out to the Japanese countryside, and they find this this retired Japanese actress who was like who was like in her 80s now, but was sort of very active in like the pre and post World War II periods of kind of Japanese cinema. And then they did this actress is kind of based on a pastiche of like another kind of like sort of famous kind of Japanese actresses, kind of most sort of kind of specifically Setsuko Hara. But the film itself is really beautiful and amazing because it's kind of like the documentarians are interviewing her. The actress clearly at this point has Alzheimer's. So they're interviewing her for a biography documentary about her own life, but because her memory is sort of slipping as she's telling the story of her life, the movies that she was making during her career as an actress keep on sort of slipping and kind of blending into the actual stories of how she talks about kind of growing up in sort of pre-war and post-war Japan, and like all like the different things that were happening to her. Just wonderful, visionary, kind of very, very creative film, but also just a huge, huge bummer the entire time, and a huge, huge bummer in a very specific way. A lot of what this woman went through, like what a lot of women and like what a lot of people kind of generally kind of grown up kind of like that kind of period in Japanese history is, there's a lot of just sadness and kind of misery and kind of repression, like actually sort of like depicted, and kind of in pre-war Japan, the kind of just the rise of kind of fascism and militarism and like the police state, and then the actual sort of death and horror, like the war itself, and then kind of post-war Japan, where everything has basically kind of been kind of burnt to the ground, like everybody's like impoverished, things are all just kind of falling apart. It's a lot of her life story is kind of, just it is within the context of just how miserable things were kind of in Japan at the time, and then her experiences like as just like a woman in Japan, and like and trying to be creative, trying to be an actress, how badly the men in her life would treat her, how even worse like the women in her life would actually kind of treat her, and it's a very kind of sad, heavy movie that and like kind of like the standing theme is that life can kind of sort of be difficult, and we can occasionally find these bits of kind of joy and meaningness and happening in happiness in either cinema or culture or kind of like artistic expression. So just a great film, but like a really, really heavy one, and you're just kind of in the misery of just kind of what Japan was about and what like the country and the people were sort of going through at the time. So great film, extremely heavy. We're there. I'm enjoying it, but I'm kind of ready to kind of get through like the end of this thing at some point at the same time. Heavy stuff happened in Japan. There's a scene where it's the 60s. The actress is kind of more or less retired. She's there. It's kind of like a sunlit afternoon. She's cleaning her apartment, and she's listening to the radio. The radio's playing some music, and all of a sudden the announcer cuts in, and the announcer goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have the most amazing news to announce. A team of Americans, this is unbelievable to say, but a team of Americans has just landed on the moon." And I went, "Oh!" I start like yelling and kind of applauding. My girlfriend looks at me like I'm like the biggest maniac. I'm like, "Woo!" Because especially when you're abroad, kind of like in a completely different alien place, it's weird the things that make you feel kind of almost nationalistic. It's weird the things that get you excited. But I start fucking clapping when they announce America's got to the moon. I make her rewind the movie. So they played the radio announcement, "America has gotten to the moon again." And I start going, "USA, USA, USA."
And she's looking at you like you're a complete asshole.
Yeah. See, she just bless her heart. This is the most patient woman in the world, but she's just looking at me just like, "Bakagaichen, what is going on right now?" Yeah. Beautiful film. So the surprises of films, just like those are the two sort of moments that kind of come to mind for that question.
Cool.
Reminds me of the Dumb and Dumber scene. We landed on the moon.
Yeah.
It's
He's got the
"Whoa!"
newspaper.
Yeah.
And now imagine that, but a beautiful Japanese woman is staring at you with confusion and maybe like a bit of outright contempt.
Never happened to me, but
Nope.
I'll try.
I'm never gonna have that experience.
No, yeah, but I'll try.
All right, so let's visit from best new film 2024. And this doesn't necessarily have to be like from like the year proper, but like best thing you watched that was not explicit kind of topic on the podcast. Andy, you want to go first?
Yeah, so we did talk about it, but I love Deadpool and Wolverine. But my number one movie, what's that?
Top 5 for me.
Yeah. My personal number one movie of the year, Dune Part 2. Just absolutely adored that movie. Watched it by myself in a theater on a random, like, a Tuesday afternoon or something like that.
You saw it up in Millbury, right? Like that really bizarre mill that's just up in the hills.
That's exactly right. And yeah, it was me, and maybe there was one or two other people in the theater, but like I was essentially alone, and just floored by the whole thing. Just absolutely floored. I know this is much to Eric's chagrin for when he imaginarily listens to this back, because we all know he's not going to do that. But if he were to listen to this, I know that he's cringing when he hears me say Dune Part 2. But but yeah,
you can see the movie, and then he's allowed to make like a coherent defense.
Yes, agreed. I just thought it was so good, and I liked the first one, but the second one for me was the superior sequel by far. So that's my answer.
Was almost going to be my pick instead of instead of the Great Muppet Caper for superior sequels.
Okay, yeah,
that would have been that would have also meant we would have had to have done like 2 Villeneuve films back to back, and that seemed like the format was like a little bit more interesting for the Muppet, but that was a very, very close to a pod watch for me.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Nice.
Naveen, how about yourself?
I kind of had it on both, back and forth. So for surprise and good movie, I thought was Roadhouse, but I also had Furiosa. Probably because
Furiosa, really? Okay.
I watched it after we had talked about the whole Mad Max thing, and then watched it afterwards, and it was just like, oh, it's not bad. It's pretty good. I mean, Hemsworth was mostly comical, and and mostly comical in there.
Hemsworth knowing more or less sort of playing a guy the three of us actually knew quite well from high school and college.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The big guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Your old bass player.
That didn't occur to me. That didn't occur to me at the time, but yeah, maybe a little bit.
Once I saw it, I could not unsee it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, I actually did kind of enjoy it. I mean, the villain was kind of weirdly written and how he rose to be higher up there and a formidable villain, how he did that somehow, but it was still kind of neat. And the way it ended, not like the ending where it leads into
Fury Road.
The Fury Road, but before that where she hunts him down, I thought that was pretty neat and pretty good. So
what we like the two-hander exchange between them, like at the end of the movie, and like his whole thing, like, do you have what it takes to make it epic? Is I think some like the best like acting Hemsworth has done in his career.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I really like that. But again, for Roadhouse and Furiosa, they're kind of both like biggest surprises and kind of like also one of the better movies that I saw this year. Yeah.
I like Furiosa a lot too. That was one of my other shout outs. So
yeah, it's a movie that I liked, but it's a movie that existed so in the shadow of Fury Road that it kept it from really kind of being in my top tier.
Yeah, I agree with that. Fury Road is a better movie, but it's good in its own right. It's different enough. It's a little bit more cartoony than Fury Road was.
Well, it was originally, I guess, intended as an anime film they were going to produce in tandem with Fury Road, and it kind of got stuck in development hell for a really long time.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Yeah, did not know that. What do you got?
All right, for my best of the year, I'll kind of go down looking at my Letterboxd rankings again, but my top 5 non-pod, I'll read backwards for them. So number 5 was The Substance. Number 4 was Deadpool and Wolverine. Number 3 was Midsommar for all the reasons we just kind of went into. Number 2 was Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch, which I hadn't had the chance to see earlier, but loved, and then just watched again a few days ago. They had it up on Disney Plus out here. But again, another overlap here with Andy. But my number 1 was for the year was easily Dune Part 2. Andy, did you have any experience with the original Frank Herbert novel prior to going into this movie?
I've not read any of the books. Nope.
Did you see the first, I guess, revision of Dune that they did, the movie?
The original one?
Yeah.
The David Lynch one?
Yeah. I've never seen it all the way through.
Same.
I've seen parts, but I've never seen it all the way through. It did not do anything for me.
Right. It's like the David Lynch one. It's kind of been sort of kind of reappraised a little bit now that there's sort of now that there's kind of what's considered to be a canonically good Dune movie out there. People are a little bit more, I think, forgiven about the Lynch one. But the Lynch movie literally starts with Kyle MacLachlan being yelled at by Patrick Stewart, and then they turn into Rock'em Sock'em robots and start punching each other. I mean, there's a lot of truly wild shit in that. But,
now I want to watch that.
Yeah. Soundtrack by Toto, which if you kind of go on YouTube, you can actually sort of see scenes from the Villeneuve Dune Part 2, but sort of redone with the Toto music sort of blaring in the background. But goddamn, it's just, I love weird 60s and 70s sci-fi. I love the artwork of it. But find I find that a lot of the storytelling that kind of was happening in tandem with that to be kind of just sort of shitty and insufferable. Frank Herbert, like this is the best way I've kind of heard like the Frank Herbert Dune books described. He wrote 6 Dune books in his lifetime, and the first half of the first one is good, and everything else after that is just kind of screaming nonsense. And you kind of get further and further into it, and it becomes like less and less about telling like a coherent kind of sci-fi story, and more about either just kind of like vaguely veiled memories for kind of 60s Berkeley psychedelic culture, or like a lot of weird sexual shit that like the Bene Gesserits were kind of like into. I read the first Dune novel in high school and then again in college. In high school, I remember kind of thinking, is this kind of shit? And then in college, when I reread it, like, yeah, this is kind of shit. The first half of the novel, really pretty good, like really pretty like articulate and just does kind of great world building and just really has some just striking, visually evocative just sort of descriptions of just kind of just like, you know, the alien worlds and the vehicles and like the philosophy and the technology that would everybody use, and just really and really kind of paints a coherent picture. And then like the back half, like the first Dune novel, which Dune Part 2 is based off of, is just complete bizarre incoherent nonsense. It's just like, oh yeah, and then like a decade passed, and Paul was also like in a coma for like 2 years worth of that, like his sister was born, and his sister ended up also having kind of superpowers and this, that, and the other thing, and da. So I did not kind of go in. I liked the first Dune movie like a lot. I did not go into the second one thinking, oh, this is going to I did not think the second one was going to be the equal to the first. I certainly did not expect it was going to just completely blow past it and end up kind of being like my favorite movie of the year. It's just I love big, weird, crazy swings like that. And just the stuff Villeneuve does and pulls off and gets away with, from just like the amazing special effects and sort of these deep, complex, morally gray themes that he kind of gets into, but like the fact he also just blends that with just like the most crazy tripped out bullshit that you can kind of possibly imagine. Some like the weirdest decisions between, like, you know, how Florence Pugh has progressively just crazier and crazier headgear, like over like the course of the film, to like the fact that the movie literally starts with Timothy Chalamet having a telepathic conversation with his sister's fetus.
Yep.
To like the fact that to Austin Butler just playing every single scene, like, you know, the direction he must have gotten was just horny as possible, not horny enough, hornier. The fucking Villeneuve casting Christopher Walken as the Emperor of Space, but also telling him just use your Queen's accent, just lean into it. You just, Paul Muad'Dib has these giant sandworms. A whole This is a movie I saw 3 times in theaters and loved more and more like each time that I saw it. Like it was just the weirdness and ambition and scope. I just fucking just like levitated like every time. Easily my favorite of the year.
Yep, it was excellent. It was really good.
Okay, so other shout outs that you guys want to do before we kind of like round down? Like this could be TV, music, books, video games, anything else?
I'm gonna go lightning round. So
Lightning round.
Shrinking, amazing. Blue Eye Samurai, which I don't know when it came out, but this is the year that I watched it. Fantastic. Loved the new Pearl Jam album, Dark Matter. I did say Furiosa. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Henry Cavill and the Guy Ritchie directed that, I think.
Yep. Was fantastically watchable, at least on a plane. Take that for what it's worth. I liked The Fall Guy a lot. Roadhouse, Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, and then this is a weird one. So because I actually haven't finished the movie yet. Another one I was watching on a plane, and then we lost connectivity to Wi-Fi, and then we landed. But a movie called Snack Shack.
I've heard of this. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's strangely compelling in a way that I normally wouldn't like. It's a bunch of characters that I wouldn't normally like. It's a movie that's trying to be much cooler than it probably is. But there was something about it that just absolutely fascinated me. And yeah, I have to finish watching it. Like I said, I haven't, all of this said, I haven't gone out of my way to finish watching it either. Cause I think I only have about 10, maybe 12 minutes left in the movie, and to pay for a whole movie on Amazon just to watch the last 12 minutes of it, it goes against,
It's rough.
Yeah, it goes against everything I believe in. So I have to wait until it's free on some.
You got to save that money for guitars.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I have to just wait until it's free on some kind of streaming service. And then I would be remiss if I didn't call out what might arguably be my most favorite piece of entertainment, pop culture of all time. And it's a rolling thing because it's a series. The Great British Baking Show is my happy place, and I don't care what anybody thinks about me for having said that.
Word.
There you have it.
Nice.
Yeah, right on.
Naveen?
All right. Well, if you haven't seen it, you should check out What We Do in the Shadows. They did just finish their last season, and that they're doing. And I was going to share.
Have you watched the series finale yet for that?
Yes, I've watched everything of it, and it's just fantastic. And it's great. You should check it out. I was actually going to share an episode with you guys, and I still think I should, because it relates to heavily relates to one of the movies we watched during our
this was this something from this season?
This last season, yep.
Okay, I know what you're talking about then. Yeah.
So it was great because I started laughing so hard. It's like this is
absolutely share that so we can have a conversation about it later.
Yeah, and it's on Hulu, so we got Hulu. You can watch it there. So that's great. Definitely loved the House of the Dragons, the Game of Thrones sequel, season 2, not sequel, but season 2 prequel stuff. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, the second season was definitely better. It was out there and weird and stuff as well, but the main storyline of bringing the rings closer together and getting them all made and was heavily focused on, and which made it more appealing to me, despite all the other nonsense stuff that they threw in there again.
Right.
I like the second season better than the first season, but which is good. I haven't finished it yet. So it's kind of a rolling one as well. But I've only got, I think, 3 to 4 episodes in. But Skeleton Crew is kind of just fun to watch.
Skeleton Crew is really good, isn't it?
It's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm same as you. I'm about halfway through the entire time. I think I hit up like the high school group chat that we have, but it's really fun and solid, and it's a show I had no expectations for whatsoever. Judd Law is doing maybe one of the best ever Star Wars performances. It's the closest I think I've ever seen an actor kind of get to old school Harrison Ford. Neil, the little elephant boy, I would go to war and die for. Like it's just
yeah.
Tell me that I'm wrong, Devine. Like it's
I've only seen the first episode, and I already agree with you, Johnny.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I think you had mentioned in our group chat that you find it Goonies in space is what I think you mentioned.
Right.
I don't know if you guys ever watched this 80s movie with River Phoenix and
the Explorers.
Explorers is what I kind of feel it's more like.
Yeah, 100%.
Explorers in the Star Wars universe. Is what I first thought of.
That's River Phoenix and Ethan Hawke, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then the third kid, who I guess didn't make it quite as big.
Yeah. Funny third guy.
Yeah. But I don't know. We should bring that movie back too. Put it on the list. That was a great movie.
I liked that one.
Seems like an obvious thing to like circle back to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, what do you got for us?
Let me see. Not a really big television year for me at all. It's been a lot of either like for like kind of streaming shows. There's been like a lot of stuff of franchise things that have just kind of really disappointed me. But I randomly over just like the last week of the year got into maybe like the last month or so of the year got into sort of like 3 different shows at the same time. Again, for all these, I have to sort of see if they kind of stick the landing ultimately. But like a Skeleton Crew, like you said, is surprisingly great. Like a show I had no expectations for whatsoever.
Yeah.
And in looking for things to kind of watch with Nowco, it's a bit easier for the Netflix in Japan has an access to like a much broader kind of anime library. So we've been watching these 2 relatively new animes. One is called Delicious in Dungeon, and the other was called Dan Da Dan. Not an anime fan generally. Not. It's not something I kind of like actively seek out. Similar to Midsommar, both of these shows are so exclusively my bullshit that I'm just it's just been kind of just sort of super sort of fun and thrilling to kind of watch these, coming off of a year where I thought like the second season of Invincible was not particularly exciting. I thought all the I thought all the new MCU TV shows were sort of like kind of middling to bad. I thought that the Acolyte was like kind of like a really kind of huge disappointment. I really yeah. So go ahead.
I kind of like that one. Acolyte?
Yeah, it had its high points, but I don't think it stuck the landing. Like it ended pretty weak. It's not getting a second season, which is like a disappointment. So it's it's kind of like a lot of a kind of lost time, sort of whatever can like put into that show. For me, this year has really kind of been primarily like a movie year. It's a combination of kind of what we've been kind of doing for like the pod and like the way that I'm just kind of passing like a lot of time out in Vegas right now. According to my Letterboxd list, I watched, like I said, like 66 new to me films this year, and I also rewatched 24 other films from like this past year. Looking at the list of 66, I kind of ranked everything, kind of stratified them, loved, liked, hated. Out of the 66, I see 25 movies here that I really legitimately loved. Sort of like and only 8 that I actually kind of like actively disliked. So it was a year of kind of just partly motivated by the pod and partly motivated by just like a lot of the other movie podcasts that I just kind of listening to and just kind of just trying to kind of go out to the cinema more and kind of trying to roll like the dice on new shit. Out of these 25 movies, if it was a more kind of normal kind of year for me, I've only kind of seen like a fraction of like this art that I really kind of like end up like enjoying kind of a lot. So movies are kind of like the biggest thing for me. The only other 2 things I shout out, I got to read I made time for like a limited number of books this year. I talked about this on a bit more at length on like I will be talking about this like on an upcoming record of kind of Cunning of the Goose, but the horror novel kind of by Dan Stevens called The Terror. The AMC kind of made like a TV series based on this. It's about it's kind of a speculative historical horror fiction about what happened to the 2 British Navy crews that kind of got stuck trying to cross like the Arctic Circle back in the 1850s. A really good TV show I watched a few years ago. The book was flat out like one of like the best kind of horror novels I've ever read like my entire life. And the other,
hold on, Johnny, is that Dan Stevens the actor?
No, Dan Simons.
Oh, okay, got it.
And then the other sort of thing, like I'll mention, like not a big year for kind of video games for me, but from the conversations that we've had on Cunny and at Eric's encouragement, I bought an Oculus Quest 2 VR headset. I think I kind of mentioned it like on a previous pod kind of briefly. I never really kind of messed with it or did anything it, but on Eric's encouragement, I downloaded and played all the way through a video game called The Seventh Guest, which is a remake of kind of like a CD-ROM sort of puzzle mystery adventure game that was kind of initially made kind of back in 1993. it's one of the first times I've actually had a VR experience where I've kind of felt like, oh, this is going to be the future eventually. This is going to be something like very, very exciting. And it was literally this moment of like, I am in a video game. I am playing a puzzle in a video game, but I am dealing with the puzzle by standing in front of a full-size glass cabinet, walking around the glass cabinet, ducking, trying to look under the shelves, trying to kind of peep through like the glass to kind of see what's inside, looking for secret compartments or switches or like little messages or padlocks or anything else that can kind of sort of help me figure it out. And like the interaction was like literally the same as if I was actually looking at a real glass cabinet in like an escape room, like or something like that. And that was that was the first really, really interesting, really exciting time where I was kind of like, okay, they're actually starting to get there with this technology. And I think I just, this is something we'll sort of revisit on Cunny, and maybe I'll kind of bring into like the actual sort of pod proper, like at some point. But it felt like kind of Ready Player One shit for like the first time, and then I've never had like really that kind of that sense before where the technology's been at.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right. Yeah.
One thing I will shout out quick though. One shout out to not watch. Seriously, don't watch it. Netflix did a really bad job, and I have no idea how they're getting season 2 and 3 out of it. But the Last Airbender, it's terrible.
Do either of your kids have any context with the original show? Because we're all three of us we're a bit too old for the original like Nickelodeon run of that.
No. Charlie knows a little bit about it from the manga, the actual manga, but I don't think he's a particularly big fan of it.
Right.
And I mean, maybe not with the story, but they just picked really bad actors, and they're just not believable. And it was. I don't know how it's continuing.
Right, I feel like they've only screwed because they made a movie of it too, and the movie was
M. Night Shyamalan made a disastrous movie. It basically ended his career as a studio director. Like his adaptation of The Last Airbender was that bad.
So it doesn't seem like they can get that IP right at all. They just can't. They just can't get it
right.
But what is so surprising and weird to me is hearing people say, "Oh, yeah, this live action adaptation of The Last Airbender was bad," but then also, hey, they did a good job with the live action One Piece. That to me seems like a million times harder, like sort of like animated live action thing to actually get right.
The live action One Piece is so good. I love it.
Really?
What a just.
Wow.
What a treat to watch. Loved it.
Yeah. Naveen, if you don't have like any context for what the show is about, it's Magical Pirates is the really short version of it.
Yeah, that's about right.
All right.
Yeah. But this is a show that has gone for about 1,000 episodes in Japan. About like there's been 1,000 issues of the comic book, and the cartoon adaptation will catch up to it like eventually. I think is like what the plan like actually is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Again, one of just a very specifically kind of my bullshit show. Like not the biggest anime fan, but something about the color, the sense of humor, the design, like the animation. Like I started watching like One Piece like about like a year or two back, got 100 episodes in, and then said to myself, I'm a 40-something adult. I cannot be putting this kind of investment into like a show like this.
It's worth watching. It really is.
Nice.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, so that's kind of like all I had on my side, just like a little kind of chat to kind of sort of close out with some kind of discussion of some like the non-pod stuff that we have enjoyed. Gentlemen, anything else before we wind down?
No, I'm all good here. Just wishing everybody happy New Year, and you guys and the fans out there, and of course, again, happy birthday, Johnny.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
quick update. I just got a text from Eric, and he said, things with the Bears are apparently not going great. So, TBD, we'll have to see.
I have decided that until I forget, which could be as soon as next episode, that I'm going to personally greet Leonard. I've never met Leonard, but I know that he's our one repeat listener. So, Leonard, thanks for listening. Happy New Year, buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I just got a text from him earlier. We miss you, buddy. Come on the pod. We can kind of talk about, I don't know, Mads Mikkelsen or dried herring or whatever the fuck. You can pick the topic if you're willing to come on.
Bring him in.
Nice. Yeah. We could do some more guests. We've had other guests.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
So hopefully again, we have pushed our 2024 show recap back again. Hopefully when Eric is kind of less indisposed, we'll sort of be able to kind of get to that one. So the plan again, coming attractions, we'll be doing like our show recap hopefully in the next few days. And then we'll be finally winding down the mockumentary series with an actual mockumentary. This is Spinal Tap. Hopefully we'll be able to kind of get to that mid-January. So
nice.
Long overdue at this point.
Yes.
Long overdue. Yeah. And then going from there, I believe we're kind of just going right into video game adaptations. The shuffling I did for the order of kind of host picks, I will actually be the one going first. I already have my pick for how we're going to be kicking that series off, and I think I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really interesting one.
Yeah, I still haven't decided mine yet because I think I'm right after you.
Right.
So I got to figure that out.
Just a slight spoiler, but I'm similar to what we did with mockumentaries. I'm going to swerve like a little bit. I was between a couple different movies, but I think as a kind of a kickoff point for kind of a broader thematic discussion of kind of video games and kind of video game adaptations, I think it's a great place to start.
They make Grizzly Man video game?
Big part?
They make a Grizzly Man video game?
Game over, man. Game over.
I would play that game.
I would play the shit out of that game.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
All right, man.
Talk about a kill screen. Okay, we're definitely going to 2025.
Yeah.
Don't shake your head at me, Andy.
Yeah.
No, I would never.
All right. Hope you feel better too, Johnny.
Yeah, appreciate that. Talk to you,
All
gentlemen.
right, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Easy. All right, bye.
I think warts and all, Johnny.